So my name is Kirsten Larson. I am the author of Wood Wire Wings, Emma Lillian Todd Invents an Airplane, which won the National Science Teachers, won an award from the National Science Teacher Association for Best STEM Book and the National Council on Social Studies for an Outstanding Social Studies book. That's a nonfiction picture book about Lillian Todd, who was the first woman to invent a working airplane that flew. She worked about just soon after the Wright brothers. I have another book forthcoming from Clarion, which is called A True Wonder, the comic book hero who changed everything. And that is a book about Wonder Woman and how she came to be and how she's influenced our culture. So I used to work for NASA, and now I say that I write books for curious kids. So that's
So
me.
what is your favorite part of your book? For either one, do you have a part that you'd like to read to us, or a part that you really enjoy or like the way it's illustrated?
Well, I'll tell you what, for Wood Wire Wings, I've talked to a lot of kids and teachers about this book. It's illustrated by Tracy Subisak. And one thing I really like, well, there's a few things. One thing that was really fun about writing this book is there was no biography of Lillian Todd. There's no biography for adults. And so I had to do a lot of original research in the Library of Congress archives in newspapers. That's where most of her story was told. So that was exciting to be like a detective and to be the very first person to be able to tell her story for adults or kids. One thing I love about this book is that it fits really well with the engineering design process that they teach in schools and helping kids kind of get into that engineering and inventive thinking. And a lot of that, when I talk to kids, I like to show some of the cool illustrations that Tracy Subisak did. Because I think when you look at the illustrations, you can learn a lot about the illustration process. So this is Lillian Todd as a little girl with her grandfather, who was also an inventor. And one thing I like to ask the kids is, why do you think there are so many different types, different pictures of wagon wheels? He's inventing his own carriage wheel that he got a patent on. And
Mhm.
so we talk about, why do we think there's so many different pictures of different designs? And so we can kind of use the illustrations in the book to talk about how inventors and engineers work, and the fact that they try out lots of different designs and they don't get it right the first time, and how important it is not just to have a really cool idea, but then to persevere and make it happen. So I really love talking about this book with kids. And then also a lot of times we'll combine it with like a paper airplane activity where kids can fly their own airplanes. And then when they fly it and it doesn't work just right, it's like, okay, well, now you're an engineer, you're an inventor. What do? We tweak it and we try it again until we get the design where we want it to
So
be.
you mentioned being a Wonder Woman fan, but also what was your favorite book growing up?
So I'll say a couple different ones. I was a big Nancy Drew fan. It was just Nancy, like the 91st anniversary, I think, of Nancy Drew. So I read all those books when I was a kid. And also I loved A Wrinkle in Time.
Mhm.
So, which now coolly, they also have a graphic novel version illustrated by Hope Larson. So I loved that, there's a lot of science in that, and it's science fiction. So yeah, I loved A Wrinkle in Time. I thought it was a fabulous book, and really, got me interested in the ideas of like black holes. Like, what's a black hole?
Made you really think seriously about is so you mentioned working for NASA. Was that
Mhm.
something that kind of like fell into your lap, or was that something like you drove into it,
Oh.
sure that you got there? Like, so how did that come about?
No, actually, so that did fall into my lap. We had a family friend who worked at NASA near one of the NASA centers near my family at the time in Virginia, and he had seen people, interns at NASA, taking photographs, doing all kinds of different things. I was, like I said, an English and history major, and I worked on the newspaper. Well, sure enough, I could get an internship at NASA working in public relations, writing exhibit copy and captioning photos and all kinds of stuff. So I started out as an intern. It did fall into my lap. And then when I was looking for a job, actually moved out here to California to work at what's now the Armstrong Flight Research Center. But I also did public affairs for NASA at NASA headquarters, and got to go to space shuttle launches and work with media, and go to Houston to work in mission control.
Can you share with everybody like your social media or any place where they can get a hold of you if they have inquiries?
Sure. So I think it's on your Inkwell website, but my website is Kirsten-W-Larson.com, and I'll put it in the chat. And then also Twitter, Instagram at Kirsten W. Larson.